To former federal prosecutor Katie Cherkasky. Katie, first, the under and over in your eyes where this goes. Will the judge release this affidavit? Seems unlikely, but what do you think? And I want to go.
Well, I think we would all love to see what's in this affidavit, but I do think that we're going to have to wait a lot longer, potentially until and if there is an indictment. It is very unusual for a judge to release something like this during an ongoing investigation. Now, in this case, this is very unprecedented, so there are arguments on the other side of that, but I don't believe that the affidavit will be released at this stage of the case.
All right. Now, this is the same judge of courts who said there was enough compelling evidence to indicate, or the perception of such, the raid in the first place. So will he be an even player in this?
Well, this is an interesting thing to kind of remember. This case right now is really not a case at all. It's an investigation. The DOJ is the only party that's going to be discussing this with the judge. Donald Trump doesn't have standing to actually make an argument to release it. Now, the judge is aware of his stance. It is a consideration as to the privacy interests of the person who's targeted. But really, this is the DOJ's case. This is their investigation. They have a lot of case law on their side in terms of allowing these things to remain sealed while the case and the investigation is proceeding. So I don't believe that there's a lot of actual case law that supports the unsealing of this, although, again, this is very unprecedented and the public interest in this is at the highest level. So that is the one factor that I think could compel the judge if he was to do that. But I really don't see him doing that at this stage of the investigation.
No, he's sort of being poked and pushed by the former president himself, that is the judge, to say, go ahead and release it. I have no problem with that. Or is he just calling their bluff?
Well, again, Donald Trump's position is a factor for the judge to consider. The information in the underlying affidavit essentially explaining what the DOJ believes that Donald Trump did that actually constitutes a federal crime. Apparently, Donald Trump is fine with that being released. Again, part of the reason these things remain sealed is to protect the privacy of individuals who are under investigation, because not all investigations end up with an indictment. But if Donald Trump does feel that he's open to having it released, I think the judge can strongly consider that. But I'm not sure that that will outweigh the DOJ's considerations and concerns with releasing it at this stage, unfortunately.
Now, separately, the former president wants to release video of the raid itself on the Mar-a-Lago compound. But there are issues with that, too, right?
Well, I would think that that could potentially cause further legal problems if there was anything that could be seen in the videos that deals with the documents that are in contention right now. So, I mean, that's just one of many factors here. Donald Trump is the owner of that footage, and for the most part, I suppose, could choose to release that. But I think that there should be a very significant analysis on his part about whether that exacerbates any potential legal problems with this. And I, as a criminal defense attorney personally, I would not advise him to do that.
So just to understand this, I mean, is there how much of a game changer is it? The president's raised this to the level of, I've been framed, I'm being taken advantage of here. For the judge to say, all right, this is getting way out of control. We do have to release this because it's setting up all this tension and alarm and constitutional crisis if we don't.
I personally think that that is a very significant consideration here, because this is a former president. The idea of prosecuting the president isn't just about what he may or may not have done with these documents, but there's, as you mentioned, very significant constitutional considerations. And a lot of people, based on the release of the search warrant, we don't know anything more than they think he has documents that they claim are sensitive or classified. He says they're not. There's some sort of document dispute. And to a lot of people, it seems very political, not criminal whatsoever. So I think to quell people's concerns, the affidavit and the underlying supporting evidence that supported this search warrant might give a lot more information to those folks that think this is just a political attack. But again, I'm not sure that overrides the DOJ's concerns with their ongoing investigation here. But certainly, I don't think a lot of people will be satisfied until they actually see some substance. Right now, we don't know anything aside from there's a document dispute. That's a lot of people's opinions. And there's nothing that's going to change that until they see some substance there.
Yeah, know for themselves what this is really about. Katie, thank you very much. Appreciate it.